Hello, welcome back, everybody. I am your host. I am joined here with my co-host Steven.
What's up?
We are Two Mics and Some Theories, and today we have not a book review, but a story review, a story summary. We're gonna talk about a classical book, 1984, written by George Orwell. Who is that? He wrote Animal Farm. Who is that still? You'll find out. So, Steven, then I guess I'll start by you asking me questions about it. And then as you ask me questions, I'll describe it, describe the world, describe what it's about, and then just talk about it and then connect it to everything or any ideas that you have.
All right.
So before you ask me a question, let me ask you, have you heard about it?
I've heard about it. I've never read it. Have I read it? No, I haven't read it. I have read Animal Farm though.
Do you remember what happened in Animal Farm?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what happened in Animal Farm? From what you remember.
The animals take over, and the pig ends up basically acting just like the human at the end.
Right. And that's the basis of what it was. It was they saw the animals, they saw the humans as some kind of, I guess you can say, government that was controlling everything, and everything they ate, they did from night to day. And then the animals made a rebellion, and the pigs ended up essentially doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So George Orwell's book 1984 follows a similar idea, which is the idea of a totalitarian government, which is a government that controls everything and anything you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess before I even describe the story, just fire away any questions. Anything. Basic questions, complicated questions.
Well, let's get to the most obvious question. Was the book written in 1984?
It was not. It was written in when do you think it was written? I know that it says 1984, but when do you think it was written?
I would have to say before 1984. It may be published like right about either on that year or the year after.
All right, it was published 1949.
Oh shoot! Damn.
So when he published it, it was right after the Second World War, and he was predicting a future of what he thought would be the future of 1984.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's related, but have you heard is it a theory? I don't know if it's a theory of 2045.
Why does that number stand out to me? I think I've heard about it in the news, but I'm not sure. What do you mean? 2045, what about it?
I'm botching it because I don't know what it is for verbatim, but it's that advancements in technology and in the medical field are it's advancing so much so fast that they predict or they calculate by 2045 that there'll be like this massive breakthrough that'll literally change everything for us, but like an advancement in a good way. Like it'll be like this major breakthrough.
I know I've heard that exact thing that you're saying, and they're calling it the second industrial revolution or the next industrial revolution, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Where did I hear about it? Either on the news or some podcast I was listening to. But I have heard that recently.
I've heard it multiple times, but it came to mind because of the Steve Aoki one. They talked about it.
Maybe that's where I heard it.
Yeah.
Speaking about interviews, have you seen this? I'm not shying away from the book, but this will tie into it. Have you seen Dave Chappelle's special?
Yes.
Sticks and Stones?
Yes.
So in the special, he said something a quote that I want to tell you. He was talking about how when he was younger, that he didn't have any money. And he said, I don't know if his father said it or if he said it himself, but I believe it was his father talking and said, "You are not poor. poor is a state of mind.
Yeah.
You are broke, or we are broke. And when I heard that quote, well, what do you think about it?
Well, I thought the delivery was funny. It was good. I laughed about it.
Yeah.
I thought that's a pretty good way of looking at it. I mean, yeah. I used to always say, "Oh yeah, I'm poor. I'm poor." Never really gave it any other thought. But yeah, it's a state of mind. Broke is, I think, being broke is the action of not having any money,
Right.
and poor is you being poor. That is like a mental,
The mentality.
the mentality of it. Yeah.
Right. And then how would you say that people would get out of that mind state of being poor? What would they have to acquire? What do you think? How would they get out of that? And I guess you could also say, how do they get out of being broke? What key thing do they need? Yeah, that's correct. Information. That might have been too broad of a question.
Yeah.
That was a pretty broad question. What I was trying to lead into was information. And when I say information, I guess you could also say education.
Uh-huh.
But when you strip down education, all education is just information.
Right.
So how do you, when you want to learn something new, what do you do? And
well, now we just look it up.
Right. I was trying to distinguish it from the school system, and because I guess most people would say if I want to learn something, I would go to school and learn it.
I guess it just depends in what part of your life you're at. Because if you're younger, then yeah, you go to school to learn stuff.
Right.
But us at our age, I mean, yeah, we can go to school, but it's a lot easier just to look it up ourselves, like find out ourselves.
So you said something that was really interesting. You said at our age, but I just want to let you know, I am fucking young. I am a young buck. I'm in my early 20s. Some people look at me and say, wow, you must be in your late teens. I said, no. Thank you, but no. I still get ID checks at the club.
All right.
I don't even go to the club, but they check my ID.
Damn, you look so young. You get checked leaving the club.
Do they check leaving the club?
I only bring it up because I saw a video where these dudes were filming a prank, and as people were leaving the clubs, they were like, "I'm sorry, we have to check your ID to make sure that it's okay for you to leave." And people were all confused, all drunk, and they would like show them their IDs. And they're like, "Oh, 21? Okay, you can leave." It was really funny, but that's the first thing that came to my mind.
And I know you meant that as a joke, but that would be a good way to catch people that snuck in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that many people sneak in enough for the club to do something about it. Because why would they not want them to come if they're going to go in and spend money on drinks?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it'd be a good thing for the club to do. I think it'd be a good thing for law enforcement to do.
Right. There you go. That's a good distinction. Anyway, ask me. So what do you got? 1984. Dave Chappelle. Information.
So you mentioned it's a book about the author's views on what he thought the future was going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
How correct or how incorrect was he?
So the main idea for the book was that he predicted a future of, have you heard of the term Big Brother?
Yes.
So the book follows the main character, Winston. And Winston, at all times, the society that he lives in is being watched by what they call Big Brother, which you can think of as a totalitarian government. And it's called Big Brother because in every house and in every street, there's something that's called a telescreen. And a telescreen, think of it like a flat screen TV. It's in every house, and as a camera, it can watch you, it can hear sounds, and it can speak to you. So in that society, they're constantly under surveillance, 24/7, all the time. And what this society wants to do is it wants to eliminate free thought, free speech. It essentially wants to eliminate the ability of the individual to have original ideas and individuality. So it wants everybody to be essentially like a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Why that's alarming is because the telescreens that are watching you, if you show any emotion, you get taken away and disappear. They don't say that they kill you, but you disappear. And there's 3 main forms of, I guess you can say, government. Because, you know, in our society, we have the judicial, and what's the other one? The executive. And what's the other one? Judicial, legislative?
Yes.
I don't know if that's correct. Judicial, executive, and I don't know if it's legislative, but there's 3, right?
It sounds correct.
I don't remember the third one. But over there, they have, or in 1984, they have the Ministry of Peace, the Ministry of Plenty, the Ministry of Love, and the Ministry of Truth. And I'm not saying they act like those, but they're essentially 4 main branches of that. I wouldn't even call it a government, of that society. Winston works in the Ministry of Truth. And it's called Truth because his job is to manipulate information. So when I say manipulate information, he changes facts, dates, peoples, so the party controls the past, the present, and the future. And they actually say this quote in the book where they say, who controls the past controls the future, and who controls the present controls the past. What do you think about that quote?
Who controls the past controls the future, and who controls the present controls the past. Well, at first it's a little confusing. But once you actually think about it,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. You have to know the past to kind of dictate your future.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you control the present, you can control the past because you can keep what you want and make what you don't want forgotten about, like just make it disappear.
Yeah. The way I was thinking about it was the same way, but it was just a little different. I said, if you know the past, then, or I should say, if you understand the past, then you can predict the future. That's just the way I was thinking. If you understand that you can predict the future,
Mm-hmm.
and if you control the present, then you can control the past. So that's the way I thought about it. I think it's just a different way to say it, almost.
Yeah, I like how your mind went to, like, if you know the way you said it, if you know the past, you know the future. My mind went straight to how, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you know how our history books kind of highlight the U.S. history in a certain way that makes us kind of look good.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought about. It's like, since if you control the present, then you can control how your past is seen to make, like, in your benefit.
Yeah. And you know what? Let me quit tiptoeing around this bullshit. All right. So let's get... Hold on. Technical difficulties. It seems my...
From your head.
Whoops. My bad. Sorry about that. But if you're not watching video, then nothing happened. So, tiptoeing. Let's quit tiptoeing around this. So in this society, I told you about the surveillance, right?
Yeah.
So, and I told you Winston works in the Ministry of Truth. So the party which is what the main government is called, and Big Brother, who leads it, they control and they manipulate all of the information, everything, books, newspapers, television, everything. They control the entire media, and they change it in order to make the party look favorable, like they're always in power, like they're always in control. And they go so far as to even control the individual's thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't learn this until the very end, but they do this through torture. So anyone who has free thought or shows any type of individuality, they get tortured until they believe whatever the party tells them.
Mm-hmm.
And in this world, that belief is called doublethink. Let me give you an example. If I did this and I said, how many fingers do I have up? What would you say?
4.
And if I said it again, how many do I have up?
4.
And if I said it one more time?
4.
You're getting tortured.
Mm-hmm.
You would get tortured until you said 5. And then let's say I did it again. How many fingers do I have up?
5.
You're getting tortured. You're getting tortured because you don't believe it. You're just saying the answer that you want me to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So if I did it again,
5.
you're getting tortured again. And this keeps on going on until you actually, it's not good enough for you to give me the answer. You have to believe it. And this happens with Winston. And I'm skipping ahead to the end. He gets tortured until the point where he starts to see 5. Like he starts to see a 5th finger. But it's not really there because he's still fighting it off. And they keep doing this. How many do I have up? And then he says, I believe the phrase that he said was, I'm not sure. And then the guy who was torturing him said, that's better. And then he stopped torturing him for a bit. Because what he understood was that Winston was not starting to question his own sanity. And that's what the party was trying to do. Essentially force a person's will and thought process to believe whatever the party said. If the party said 4 is 5, then they would not only say 5, but they would deep down, they would believe it. You still following me? Anything?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And there was actually a term for it. It was called doublethink. And what doublethink is it's the power of holding 2 contradictory beliefs in your own mind simultaneously while accepting both of them. And what that was kind of confusing. What that meant is, again, when I have 4, you believe that it's 4, but if the party says there's 5, you also believe that it's 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what doublethink was. And if the party at any point said, you know what, it's not 4 or 5, it's 3, you would believe it. Your own mind would believe it because you don't question the party, and you believe the party so much that whatever happens, your own mind believes it.
Sounds like a lot of work for you to get someone to like follow you without question.
It's funny you said that because that's what Winston said as well. When he was getting tortured, he said, why does the party care about me so much? Why am I being tortured? Why don't they just kill me? Because that would be a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
If you have someone that's resisting, just get rid of them. And they actually explained it. He said, the person that was torturing him said, do you know anything about the Inquisition?
Spanish Inquisition?
Was it the Inquisition? I believe it was the religious one. I might be saying something else. It was back in medieval times or even earlier when the church went on a rampage and started killing off people that were, I believe there was heretics.
Mm-hmm.
They just started to, anyone who rose up against the church, they would just slaughter them. So in the book, the person that was torturing Winston mentioned it and said, this is what they did wrong. When they had someone rebel, they just slaughtered him. And I believe they mentioned Hitler as well. When he faced resistance, he got rid of the Jews. And he said, what they both did was it was ineffective. You can't just eliminate an opposing force. You can, but they would always rise up and combat you, and eventually you'll fall. What you need to do is you need to convert them. The reason why we're torturing you is because at the end of this, we're not going to have to kill you. You're going to kill yourself, or you're going to want us to kill you because you believe in this party so much. And that's why they spend so much time and energy on the individual person. And they also had control of the entire world. The world was actually broken up into 3 different sections: Oceania, East Asia, and Eurasia. Oceania was all of North America and Great Britain, which is where this took place in England. Eurasia was, as you can imagine, Europe. East Asia was Asia, the Asian continents.
Okay.
What else you got? I know you have some questions.
I can't get past the torturing. That's crazy, but it makes sense. I still feel there'd be another easier way to do it.
How?
To get them to believe in you so much. With like what's it called? I think they do it now with the fake news, or where they give stats, but they're inflated stats.
Right. Misinformation.
Yeah. Shoot. All right. So then, next question. Wait. So how does the book end then?
So I kind of told you the beginning and the world and the end. So let me give you a 1-2-minute summary. Winston, he works at the Ministry of Truth. He keeps having these kind of flashbacks, remembering something, but he doesn't know what he's remembering. Eventually, he meets a young woman named Julia. And you have to remember, in this society, free expression is looked down upon. So everyone, they have a certain uniform. They go to their jobs. They go home. That's it. Some people do work for the party. Like, they create banners. They help the community. That in terms helps the party. And there is a rebellious force called, I believe it was called the Opposition. The main force against the party. And there's rumors that they're going on the attack, but no one knows if they're true. So when Winston meets Julia, they talk to each other, they meet up secretly, and my boy gets it in. And that's important because sex in this community is just seen as a way to have kids. Pleasure is looked down upon. So the people are as close to robots as you can think. And if you show any type of pleasure, you're taken away. Pretty much you have to have a stoic face the entire time. Just a bland, you don't care about anything face. And even if if you start to have like a smile or a frown or show any type of emotion in your face and the telescreens capture it, you'll get taken away. So that's why I bring the sex in to say that I think Julia even said it when they were after. They said that what they did was an act of rebellion against the party, which it was technically because they were doing it for pleasure. Now, eventually, Winston and Julia, they get a little secret house. Winston, in his workplace, the Ministry of Truth, meets an individual called O'Brien. Now, Winston just had a feeling that he was part of the rebellion. He didn't know, but he just had some kind of feeling. Eventually, O'Brien says, I am. Meet me at my house. Winston brings Julia. They go to O'Brien's house. O'Brien says, yes, I'm part of the rebellion. and you're gonna read this book. And the book was, I guess, a rebellious book, a book that told him the history of the world and what the rebellion stood for. Winston and Julia, they got a little loft. They read it, got it in a lot, a lot. And then the party found out about it, and that's where the torture begins. I would say the real torture began when Winston was in a holding cell and then walked in O'Brien. He was actually working for the party.
Shoot. Double crossing.
Yep. And O'Brien was the one that was actually torturing Winston. And at first, Winston doesn't know how much time he's being tortured for.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it might be a week, a month. But then his restraints start to get loose. And he thinks he's getting stronger or something. He's not sure. Keeps getting tortured. They get even more loose. He's able to move more. And eventually, towards the end of his torturing, O'Brien says, "You've put up a good fight these past 7 years." And Winston ignores it. Like it doesn't register until the straps come off. He falls to the ground. He goes to see himself in the mirror and he shudders a little bit because he sees some kind of monster creature. And then Winston realizes that's himself. He's been tortured for so long that his body deteriorated on the torturing table. So much so that he could see his bones and his hair fell out. His teeth are almost gone. He is wrecked.
That's why they got loose.
Right. So that's why he's skinny. But any other questions? What else do you want to know about it?
Nothing really. I always thought the book was like a manifesto. I didn't know it was an actual story.
That's what I thought too. Kind of like what was it, the Boston bomber? Which one of the bombers? One of the bombers left a manifesto that it was mainly about him being against technology and the dangers of technology in the future. I don't know if it was Boston. Unabomber. The Unabomber. That's what I thought it was, but not about technology, about some kind of prediction about the future, and it was something like that. And it, in a way, it kind of is, and I would actually say it is, but it's written in a story format. So it's almost like a nonfiction story, but predicting the future. It's very strange, and I like the way it was written, and there's a lot of main points about it: information, lying, surveillance, free thought, individuality. There was a lot of things that went into it, but I'll tell you what it didn't predict. It didn't predict opening weekend of 2019. So, what do you got?
Right. I didn't know where you were going with that. So yeah, let's get into a current event. This weekend is the opening weekend for the new 2019 NFL football season.
Yep.
And it's looking to be an exciting one. But we're not going to sit here and talk about matchups and everything. But with it being week one, opening weekend, that also means that it's week one in many fantasy football leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it gets exciting.
Okay.
So, I mean, you're familiar with fantasy football. You played it once or twice.
Played it, I want to say twice. I've played it before. I'm familiar with the setup, what goes into it, the players and all that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's depending on the leagues that you're in, it's a reason to get together with friends.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that I'm competitive. I like to make, if we're gonna get competitive about something, I like to, if I care about it, I like to try and win. I'm not gonna be passive about it. So that's what makes it fun. Like, watching football is fun and everything, but when you have something on the line, it kind of makes, for me, it makes it 10 times more exciting to watch. There's a bigger thrill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was actually really thinking about the idea of fantasy football, how it's like I understand it. I see how it's set up where essentially gambling on and depending on the abilities of all the players,
Mm-hmm.
the phys the their physical attributes, ability, the way they think, the way they act on and off the field, everything, all the money that we're putting into this is literally based on another person's life actions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's crazy because so many things can happen, unforeseen things can happen that can make you or break you.
I would say, isn't that what all sports betting is? You're betting on the ability of a team or an individual, and just sports betting in particular.
Right.
Because
And it's usually though you're betting on like a one specific game or one specific detail about it. In fantasy football or in any fantasy league, because there's fantasy leagues for every type of sport, you're betting on, I guess, the whole league as a pool.
mm-hmm.
Because we're picking and choosing different players from different teams and uniting them on our own team. And obviously, depending on how they do, we get the points for it or we don't get the points for it, and that it's the factor that determines whether we win or lose. So if you're betting on just one game or betting that this team will win the championship, you're just betting on one aspect. We're going offense, defense, passing, running, catching. Every aspect is being bet on in fantasy football.
That actually reminds me of boxing, specifically boxing betting, because you can bet for, either opponent A or opponent B,
Mm-hmm.
or you can bet on the rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, there's a lot more that goes into fantasy football because there's individual players. And can you make, I don't know if this is possible, but can you bet that your receiver is going to do better than mine and then we bet on that? Is that possible?
You can do little side bets like that. There are different stats. Each format gives you statistics on different things. So you have like the most point total throughout the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of things: passes, how many targets, how many actual catches, how many attempts, how many runs. Literally everything is calculated, and when you're looking up your how to set your lineup for the following week,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at all these charts, all these like graphs, previous years. You're looking at how they performed against a specific team during this, like they even bring it down to months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this month every year he performs this way. There's so much that gets put into a fantasy game. It's literally not real.
Yeah.
But so much gets put into this because it's so popular. It's crazy.
Almost like the world of George Orwell. What if the NFL owners, they saw that there was a drop? When was the fantasy football created?
I always thought it was created when internet happened, but apparently it's been being played way before that.
Oh, it's older?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And like back then it was super hard to play because you had to like call your league manager and be like, I want this, I want to drop this player, pick up this player, and they would keep track of points like on paper.
Okay, so this is an older idea. Then what if the NFL owners, they wanted their sport to be more popular? They wanted to get a rise. And why? Easy. More money, more power, more popularity, more eyes, more, how should I say, control they have of the individual. And how do you control the individual? You give them fantasy football, but you have to make it mainstream for them to actually be invested and spend a whole bunch of time setting up their lineups, looking at the players, looking at who's coming in, because fantasy football is a game of information. The more you know, the better decisions you can make, and in turn, the higher your probability of winning. Now, just because you know everything doesn't mean that you'll win, but if you have more information and you understand the stats, the players, the teams, what's going on television, and also if you know what's going on behind the scenes, then that would give you a huge advantage. Then if the NFL realized this and they said, if we give them this, then people will get invested, and when they get invested, we'll be able to have more sales, which would in turn give us more money, and then we'll have more power. What power? The power to control us. Minus the last part. Or not.
You explained it very well. You know, the more information you have and know how to use to your benefit, it does help you. But you're always in that kind of, no matter how much you know and how prepared you are, you're always kind of in limbo.
And I think I would say that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
Because when you play a video game and you're playing a single player game, you can get so good at the game that you can almost predict everything.
Mm-hmm.
And what the unpredictability of the fantasy league does is, if I was going to compare it to video games, which would be like a battle royale, where there's always different people and you can never 100%, I would even say 50% predict what individuals are going to do. And in the fantasy league, people get injured. Stuff happens outside of the NFL stadium and the team that could affect someone's performance. They could be doing drugs. They could get arrested and be out for a game or two. There's so many variables that happen not only in the game, but outside of it that affect the players. And I think that unpredictability, that you never know what's going to happen, makes it as exciting, because you can have a player, let's say Antonio Brown, and then I'm over here, I have, let's say, the Patriots, and all of a sudden everyone's looking at me like, yo, you're going to get shitted on. Steven has Antonio Brown. And then all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom. Nah, I have him now. What is? But even me having him doesn't mean he's going to be a good receiver, or he's going to work with the team, or he's going to know the plays, or etc. So there's always that unpredictability, which I think makes it exciting.
Yeah. It's literally a game of inches, because there have been occasions where, you know, it's the last game of the week,
Mm-hmm.
Monday night, and I'm down by 0.3 points. My player's on the field. It's fourth quarter. There's 2 minutes left. My team, the team that, let's say I have like a player, who's playing this Monday night? Give him more realistic. I don't know who's playing this Monday night, but let's say I have Le'Veon Bell. He's a running back.
Yeah, no, I know him. Yeah. Great running back.
And the team he's on, the Jets, they're actually up. They're winning the game, but it's the fourth quarter. They have to run the time down. I'm only 0.3 points away from winning, so that's 3 yards. Literally 3 yards.
Mm-hmm.
My boy, he gets the ball, gets the first down, but he only got two yards. So now I'm down by 1.
Mm-hmm.
They could easily give him the ball again, but why risk it? Why risk fumbling? They got the first down, new set of downs. They can just take a knee, run the clock out. There it goes. I took a now. I'm so powerless to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
But I would say that's what all betting is. With any type of betting that you have, I would say you have no control over it. So is it even worth worrying about it if you're betting? Just the act of betting itself, you really can't control.
True. Unless you're betting on yourself. That's the only thing you can control.
I thought about that right now. Even then, I would say you can't even control that. I mean, yes, you can control your actions, but you can't control what happens to you.
True.
If I'm trying to be a track star, I eat right. I work out. I eat, do all the things that would be beneficial for me to become a track star. I do everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And I get hit by a car, break my legs. I can't control that.
You can abruptly decide to retire.
So, although what I would say is, when you're betting on yourself, you have more control because because you can control your own actions.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have a higher chance than if you were betting on someone else or something else. But that doesn't mean that you'll succeed or that you'll lose. It just means you gain a slight, I wouldn't even say advantage, because it depends if what you're doing. I would say you have the chance for a greater advantage if you bet on yourself.
True.
You ever thought about sports, not just football, but sports overall? Like the Roman Colosseum and the gladiators?
Yeah.
All right, how so?
Well, I guess sports, like if we're thinking back to the Colosseum, sports to them was, I guess, violent. It was a lot more violent acts. That's why it was very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And well, at first I thought each sport, the way it gets popular is because it's savage. It's very violent. But then I quickly was like, oh, well, basketball's not that crazy. It's never been that crazy. Baseball's not that crazy. So I don't know. I kind of got stumped.
Because I don't know if you've heard this, but I've heard people say that the reason they had the games back during the Roman times, where they had the Colosseum and they had people fight each other, was for a couple reasons. One, it was in order to distract the citizens from what's going on around them politically.
Mm-hmm.
So they draw their attention to that. And when they're drawn to that, then they lose sight of what's happening around them, the wars, the poverty, etc., etc. Then that,
until the gladiators start taking knees.
Then take a knee, get your head chopped off. And then
for real,
then now whoever's in charge politically in that time, now they have more control of what they can do because the people are distracted.
Yeah.
Now that's one reason. Another reason that I've heard is that it's also a way for people to come together, to act as a group, and to release, how should I say, a sort of tension that they have, for them to, I guess we would say in today's, to release stress.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very extreme way to release stress, by seeing someone else murder someone or another animal. But I've also heard that it was a way for them to release that stress.
Yeah, I mean, all like the cheering, the excitement, forgetting about your own problems for a specific amount of time.
And I said those two things because in those two ways, that's how I think of sports now, where it's a way to, one, release stress, and for two, for the government, whoever's in power, as a way to distract you from what's really going on around them. Now, of course, there's flaws in both of them. You could say people really stress in other types of way. They don't really need that, which is true. And you can say that the government has no say in sports, which may or may not be true, and that they don't really need to distract people through sports. There's other ways to do it, which, again, that could be true as well. But I always think of the Colosseum and today's sports, and those two ways are how it reminds me of it. And the people jumping and cheering always remind me of the little camera zooms that they have to the people in the stands. Yeah.
Speaking of the people in the crowd, it's always funny in video games if you're playing like a sports game.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you look at the crowd, it's so fake.
Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
fake it is. I mean, I'm sure it's better now. I haven't played any video games in years, but even then, I'm sure all like every action that each fan in the stands is doing, it's some type of algorithm probably that dictates like, oh, every fifth person does the standing action, the next person just claps their hands, um, the next person just waves his fist in the air, going woo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So funny.
I would even say that they probably have like a certain section and they just probably copy and paste it.
Yeah.
And they might even like change the color of the shirts or
Mm-hmm.
rearrange the people a little bit. But yeah, I would think that's how they do it.
Shoot. You can even get scanned into the video games now.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You can be your own character?
Yeah, you can get like actually scanned. I've seen more like famous people that get scanned, so I think it's more right now. It's more like of an invite type of deal. But now that they have the ability to do it so easily, I think it'll. I mean, I'm not a gamer person, but it'd be pretty cool for it to be commercially available to like the public. Like it would make online play pretty cool.
Wait, the Wii can do that. When you have the Wii, if you use a camera on it to take a picture of yourself, it creates its own little me. Do you know what a me is? I believe it's a me. It's a not cartoon, but like a digital version of yourself.
Kind of looks like Ferb, right?
From Phineas and Ferb?
Yeah, like blocky.
Yeah, you can also make it more round, but yeah, that's actually a good way to compare it.
Well, in the games that I'm talking about, like I see it right now being done for the NBA 2K19 or the new NBA game.
Right.
But it's very realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Very realistic on when people get scanned. One of my I guess I could say friend back in middle school. I knew him. He was a cool dude. He was always into fashion, and we briefly went to the same high school. And he made it really big in the fashion industry. Like he has his own company, and a lot of famous people buy his stuff. It's really expensive. I follow him like on social media, and that's how I found out he himself got scanned into the game.
Oh, you saw him.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shoot, it looks just like you. It looks really real for it being like a digital game. That's why I thought, oh, that's cool. He doesn't play basketball professionally, so it's just like the kind of high end famous people.
So if I name the brand, would you tell me who it is?
Yeah.
Gucci?
No.
Supreme?
No.
Nike?
No.
Adidas?
No.
Yahweh? Yahweh? Google? Facebook?
I didn't know Facebook is into fashion right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rude? RHUDE?
No, I'm not. I like to think of myself as calm, I suppose. I wouldn't use rude necessarily, but
yeah. Well, that's the name of the brand.
yeah. So RUDE?
RHUDE.
RHUD. Okay. It's a clothing shirt.
Clothing,
company?
shoes. It's cool. Make some cool stuff. Recently did a collab with Vans, Marlboro, I think. Cool stuff.
You know what I thought was a really cool name when I heard about it? The clothing company. I don't even know if it was ever a company, but it was a brand. You ever heard of a little brand called Ruthless Romantics?
I thought that name was so dumb.
I love that name. I thought that name was super cool. I love that name. Ruthless Romantics. Woo! Little bit of love.
I've always loved the word ruthless. I just like how the meaning and how it just rolls off the tongue. But since they paired it with romantics and they did the double R and they made the shirts, I thought it was so dumb.
I thought that's what made it cool. The RR. What was it?
The guys were cool. The guys that they were so cool. But
clearly love their work.
They were as people, like they were cool.
Yeah. Well, actually, I only knew. Can we say that? I only knew Donovan.
Donovan was
because the I don't know who the other person was. I knew of him, but I knew he played basketball with him. That's all I knew about him. Did I ever tell you what Donovan told me when I ran for him in Balboa when I took his place?
No, what?
So I ran. I don't like to brag, but you know when I dusted that person in the last leg, came back to where we were, and in order for me to come back to where we were standing on the track field, the other team was on where the finish line was, and in order to get back to where we were, I had to pass them. So I'm walking back. All the cheerleaders are all staring at me. I can see the look of just, how should I say it? Like thirst in their eyes. And I'm walking back. Hold on, I feel like a scornful face on this side. And then I'm walking back. And then I see you guys. And Donovan's there. He goes up to me, gives me a dap. I'm like, yo, my bad, I had to take your place. he looks at me and says, and cries a little bit. Like a little tear just comes dripping down his face. And he goes, honestly, I wish I were you.
All right.
No, he didn't say that.
Yeah, because he went to state and we didn't.
Now the first half happened, but not the second half. Oh, he did go to state,
He did go to state.
Yeah, he was fast. Shout out to him. Shout out to you, Donovan.
Donovan. Nicest dude ever.
Quiet. It's kind of quiet.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, he was loud with his friends, but... And he talked to us more once we knew him.
Yeah. One-on-one, he was the nicest dude.
Yeah. But anything else you got?
No.
Then with that, sign us off.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate all the support. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. No, just kidding. Who knows? I might give weekly updates on how my fantasy team is doing. I don't know.
All right.
Most likely if I'm doing well and winning, but if I'm not going to say shit.
Same.
Anyways, my name's Steven. This is Pedro. We're two mics and some theories. Peace.
Bye.